الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن عليًّا ولي الله. أشهد أن عليًّا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. حي على خير العمل. حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي كان موجودا قبل حدوث الأشياء ويبقى بعد فناء الأشياء. تفرد بالأولية والقدم ووسم كل شيء ما عداه بالفناء والعدم. كما قال عز شان كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه وكل نفس ذائقة الموت وكل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام. سبحان من لا يخفى عليه اختلاف النيات ولا يعزب عنه معاصي العباد في الخلوات. سبحان الله الذي منه خلقة العباد وإليه المعاد. فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره. نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه. يعذب من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء ويرحم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء. تعذيبه المسيئين عدل وعفوه تفضل ونشهد أن سيد المرسلين وخير المبشرين والمنذرين صلى الله عليه وآله الهداة المهديين من ركب سفينتهم نجا واهتدى ومن تخلف عنها ضل فغرق وهوى أوصيكم عباد الله بالاعتصام بالتقوى فإنه حبل متين وعروة وثقى. فقد قال أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب عليه الصلاة والسلام في خطبته: إن كان في الغافلين كتب في الذاكرين وإن كان في الذاكرين لم يكتب من الغافلين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. On this Friday afternoon, I congratulate all of you on this very auspicious day, which is the day of Friday, marks as Eid for all of mu'mineen and Muslimin. I begin by exhorting myself and all of you to adopt the taqwa of Allah, as is the best of provisions. The segment that I chose for today's very brief discussion is from Khutbah of Nahj al-Balagha, in which Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he's describing the attributes of muttaqeen, he says that in kana fil ghafilin kutiba fil dhakirin wa in kana fil dhakirin lam yuktab min al-ghafilin. That even if he is found among those who forget Allah, this person who's pious person, he finds himself to be amongst those who forget Allah. He's counted among those who remember him. But if he is among those who remember him, he's not counted among those who are the forgetful one. I want to highlight on this aspect of as to the ibarat of Imam Ali could be a little bit ambiguous, in order to clarify this and inshallah the message for today. That in this segment of the sermon, Imam is mentioning two very important attributes of muttaqeen. That pious is the one who always keeps God in his perspective, and nothing can stop him from remembering Allah. You know how sometimes certain things get in the way by which we forget other things. It so happens that there was something that we were given trust or a task that was given to us to carry out. And then while we were on our way to perform that task, we were, deviated from the path, or we forgot about it because something else came up. Deviation may not be a right word over here, but, our mind occupied by something else through which we forgot the first task that we were given. And then when that person who gave us that task comes and says, oh, were you able to finish my work? You say, oh, I totally forgot about it. Although that was something which was the first priority. A lot of time this happens to, when you speak to your kids, I'm sure, for example, when you tell them, did you pray? They say, oh, I forgot, totally forgot about it. Well, I told you to go ahead and pray when it was adhan was being said. You say, yeah, I was going to go ahead and pray. I even did the wudu, but then I got a call, for example. And when I got a call, I got talking, and, in the midst of all of that, it slipped my mind, and here we are. So a lot of times things come up which make us forget something else. That thing which may have been very important. And I'm not speaking just primarily about our ibadat. Even at your work, you're busy doing something, and then your boss comes in, or a colleague comes in and asks you for a favor. You leave that what you were doing, you go ahead, get busy in that, and you get so occupied in that you get to the third thing or the fourth thing, and you forget that there was something very important that you were working on in the beginning. So that is a normal, common phenomena that all of us deal with all the time. Imam, when he talks about muttaqeen, he says they are those who always keep their first and top priority to be the remembrance of Allah. There's nothing that can take their minds away from God's remembrance. Now, God's remembrance does not mean that you're constantly having a tasbih in your hand and you're saying Allah Akbar, subhanallah, subhanallah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, and reciting the tasbih. That's not what it means. That means being God conscious all the time. Remembering, meaning that you're always God conscious, that there isn't a moment where it slips your mind that because some of the things that we end up doing, it concludes, or the conclusion could be drawn that we forgot that there is God And therefore we went ahead and did such a thing. So even if this person is among those who are oblivious of God, and there are a lot of times that we are amongst those people who can care less. Either they don't believe in him, for example, or they're forgetful because, something else is their priority, for example, or something else has occupied their minds right now. So a pious person does not, or does the opposite in the company of those who are ghafilin, heedless. He not only remembers Allah himself, but he tries to remind others to remember God as well. Now that is a big thing, that instead of becoming or blending into what people are doing, you are the one who's setting these standards. That's why 60 Imam said, Ad-dakiru lillahi azza wa jal fil ghafilin kal muqatili fil muharibin. This is in Usul Kafi. He says, the one who remembers Allah in the midst of ghafilin, heedless, is like the one who performs jihad in the way of Allah amongst warriors. So those who are the warriors, those who are mujahideen. And in a similar tradition, Prophet said, Abu Dhar, he said to Abu Dhar, who said, the one who remembers Allah in the midst of ignorant and the heedless is like the one who fights in the way of Allah in the midst of those who are fleeing the scene of battlefield. Has happened a lot, right? A lot of people who are fleeing. When do they flee? They're fleeing when they feel that they are outnumbered or they're under attack. And when you're under attack and you're outnumbered, what do? You flee the scene. Well, you shouldn't do that, but that was the common phenomena. People would run away because they feel that, this is it. We have to succumb and we have to give in. Better is to just flee the scene so that we can save our lives. He says those who stand firmly and fight in the way of Allah, even in the midst of those who are running away from the battlefield. Surah Jumah was revealed while many people were ignoring the call of the prayer. Adhan was being said. People wouldn't pay attention. Prophet would be leading the prayer. And if they heard a merchant's call, someone who's selling something would come, they would leave Prophet standing by himself and they would leave. So the ayat of Surah Jumah, ayat number 11, was revealed. وَإِذَا رَأَوْا تِجَارَةً أَوْ لَهْوًا فَضُّوا إِلَيْهَا وَتَرَكُوكَ قَائِمًا. When they sight a deal or a diversion, they scatter off towards it and leave you standing. That's the exact translation of that ayat which we recite every Friday. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that Prophet is standing there, he's leading the prayer, and you're in the middle of the salat. And of course, because it was an open masjid, it wasn't like masajid of today where the shops, you can't hear the shopkeepers and those who are vendors who are selling the stuff. It wasn't that big of a masjid. So people around the masjid, and in back then, around the masjid would be the downtown. So there would be a lot of vendors who are selling things, Muslims or non-Muslims. Here, they would hear someone is selling something. While they're in the middle of their prayer, they would leave the prayer without even finishing it, and they will scatter. Islam is a proactive religion. That could be seen from this ayat. Let me read this ayat to you. Surah Jumah, ayat number 9. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. إِذَا نُودِيَ لِلصَّلَاةِ مِنْ يَوْمِ الْجُمُعَةِ فَاسْعَوْا إِلَى ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعَ. O you who have faith, when the call is made for prayer on Friday, hurry toward the remembrance of Allah. فَاسْعَوْا إِلَى ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعَ. And leave all business. Bay literally refers to business. And that has to do with your earnings, for example. Firstly, pay attention to this ayat. It exhorts people to engage into business. وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعَ. Leave the business means that you should be engaging into business until the call for prayer comes. And secondly, it doesn't expect you to be taking a day off on Friday. That Friday should be a weekend for you. Friday, you should skip work, for example. No, because the verse didn't say when the call of the prayer comes, leave your homes and your beds, for example, if you are taking a rest. Now, of course, you happen to be off on Friday and you can take it off on Friday. That's another story. But Islam does not say for the sake of the salat, you should consider that day to be a holiday. No. If you live in a country where Friday is not a holiday, just like you and I do, then that shouldn't bother you. But you should be able to take off from work if it's possible for you, by all means, at the time of this prayer. So it didn't say that you should be coming from your homes or straight out of your beds. No. Rather, it said, leave your businesses and come to prayer. Leave your workplaces in the middle of the day and come for the prayer. Hurry towards the remembrance of Allah and leave all business. Therefore, Islam is not a religion for lazy and freeloaders. It's a religion for those who are active. Now, of course, those who are retired, they should not consider themselves to be, or offended by this, because it's not addressing it. It's addressing people who are, usually the people who are elderly. They are always there present in Salatul Jumah. Is the youngsters or the Jawan, or those who are now going through their prime, are the ones who are missing out on this salat. So it's addressing them that while you may be busy at work, make an effort for half hour, 45 minutes to take time off, come perform the salat and the importance of it, and then go back to work. This is why those who remember God lazily are condemned in Quran. Surah Nisa 142 says, Innal munafiqina yukhadi'un Allah huwa khadi'uhum. وَإِذَا قَامُوا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ قَامُوا كُسَالَى يُرَاءُونَ النَّاسَ وَلَا يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. The hypocrites try to deceive God, but He in fact deceives them. They stand up in prayer lazily, just to show off that they pray. But in truth, they remember God very little. So one of the attributes of the pious is that they are active in the midst of those who are heedless, those who are ignorant. Today in our society, we see people easily make this excuse, and when they say, how can we be practicing Islam, or how could we be practicing Muslims amongst unbelievers? There are Christians and other religions that are surrounded by me, and they don't really believe in religion. There are a lot of atheists, there are a lot of other non-divine religions. If they follow something which has nothing close to what my religion preaches, how can we practice our religion amid those who call it a virus, for example? Those who consider religion to be for those who are oppressed. Well, Karl Marx said that religion is opium. It's a virus, and it's for those who are oppressed. And these were his remarks about it. How can we then pray while no one around us prays? How is it possible for me to remain pure when everyone in my surrounding is polluted and corrupted? While I'm trying to keep myself away from alcohol and away from all the other haram things, everyone else around me is indulging into it. It's very difficult for me to avoid because of these surrounding that I have. While I'm trying to stay away from any illicit relationship, but everyone else around me is engaged into this type of relationship. Syed says in Farsi, Khwahi na shabi ruswa, hum range jamaat sho. You won't be blamed. Be part of the society. Blend into the society. Don't worry about it. You won't be blamed. Why? Because everyone else is doing. Have you ever seen, or have you ever claimed your case when you're pulled over on a highway? A cop pulls you over, and because you were speeding, and you said to yourself, well, everyone else around me was speeding. Everyone else was going 70, 75, and I was amongst them. So why do I get pulled over and not anyone else? So, of course, that argument of yours will not fly over there if you were the unlucky one amongst, because cop can only pull over one person at a time, so he pulls you over. When you blend in, this is at a personal level a matter of blemish for you, and it's a matter of to be blamed individually. Although the environment is bad and social elements are effective, but it's not an excuse which will be accepted by God tomorrow. Just like today, when you get pulled over by the cop and say, well, everyone else was driving fast, I was not the only one. You think that excuse is gonna fly? If he's pulled you over and you were over speeding, which he has on record, he will give you the ticket. That argument that everyone else around me was doing the same speed will not fly. We can try to keep God in our perspective always, to the extent that it affects the heedless around us as well. Why should we fall under their influence? They should be under our influence when they can be so strong and steadfast on their falsehood, which is you're worried about that, they're all committing haram, they're drinking, they're having this illicit relationship, and how can I avoid all of this? If they are so steadfast and strong on their falsehood, why can't you be strong and steadfast when you know that you are on the truth? And that's the plea which has always existed. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib والسلام, said the same thing. He said, the followers of Amir Sham, they know that they are on the wrong path, but still they're so steadfast and they're so loyal to him. There were many reasons for that. But my companions, on the other hand, know that I am on haqq. I am the legitimate leader, yet they still doubt in what I'm saying. So what keeps us from all of this? There are many reasons behind it. One of the ayat of Surah Ma'idah 91 says, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ الشَّيْطَانُ أَن يُوقِعَ بَيْنَكُمُ الْعَدَاوَةَ وَالْبَغْضَاءَ فِي الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ وَيَصُدَّكُمْ عَنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَعَنِ الصَّلَاةِ فَهَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُنْتَهُونَ. So don't blame the society all the time. Shaitan wants to induce hostility and hatred among you through wine and gambling, and to prevent you from remembering Allah and prayer. Well, then you avoid such things. Salat in general and Jum'ah in particular can keep one from being distracted by these what is mentioned in the above mentioned ayat of Surah Ma'idah 91. So here we get to the importance of Jum'ah. When Prophet ascended to Miraj, he witnessed the angels who were seeking forgiveness for those who attended Jum'ah prayer and performed ghusl on Friday. It says, Allahumma aghfir lilladhina yahduruna salat al-Jum'ah, Allahumma aghfir lilladhina yaghtasiluna yawm al-Jum'ah. Allah, forgive the ones, do maghfirat of those who are present for Salat al-Jum'ah. Now, of course, we're going through pandemic and Salat is not being done in the same way. But when it is being done, that's where your enthusiasm should be. And if you can't be present in Salatul Jum'ah, still, Allahumma gfir lilladhina yaghtasiluna yawm al-Jum'ah. Those who perform this ghusl of Jum'ah. Ghusl Jum'ah is mustahab, highly recommended. That Allah forgive those people. So Jum'ah has a special place in Islam, and there are many narrations that point our attention towards that. I will quote a few. Prophet said, Friday is the leader of other days and has a special place in the sight of God. Friday is the day of helping the poor and the deprived. These exhort us to do, sadaqah and infaq on Friday especially. You should not omit it on any other day, but especially on Friday because of the time, the importance of the day, the reward of it is multiplied, and there's more thawab in it. So Jummah is considered to be Eid of Muslimin. You know how you treat Eid differently than any other day? A lot of things that you do on Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, you don't do the rest of the 365 days of the year. So similarly, Jum'ah should be kept in the same category. Why? Because that's the day when the occultation of your Imam of your time, Imam Mahdi Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, will come to its end. يَخْرُجُ قَائِمُنَا يَوْمُ الْجُمُعَةِ. That Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi, Imam Qa'im al-Muntazar, will reappear on Friday. Friday is the day when the doors of heavens are wide open. And of course, for the actions of mankind. Whoever visited the grave of his father or mother, or one of them, on Friday, get this, his sins will be forgiven and his name will be written among those who are righteous. Just merely visiting the graves of your parents on Friday, or night of Friday, Shab Jum'ah, Laylatul Jum'ah, or the day of Jum'ah. When we see so many benefits that are associated with it, then can you say that this religion is difficult? The mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could be so obvious that merely visiting your parents graves on Friday is becoming a means for your forgiveness. Now, how much easy can this religion get? And how merciful could Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would be? Prophet said, do you want me to inform you about the people of paradise? Severe cold or hot weather doesn't stop them from performing the amal of Friday. There are certain amal that are associated for Friday. One of those amal is Salatul Jum'ah or Ghusl of Jum'ah. He said, regardless of the weather, it does not stop people from taking part in the Friday rituals. Friday prayer is considered to be equal in weight of Hajj, equal in weight to Hajj. Just imagine that. We read in a tradition, it says, Alayka bil Jumu'ah fa innaha hajjul masakin. Masakin refers to destitute. Now, that does not mean that if you're not a miskin, that you should not, you should abandon Jum'ah. He said, no. Alayka bil Jum'ah. Jum'ah is obligatory upon you. فَإِنَّهَا hajjul masakin. Because Jum'ah is considered to be Hajj for those who are destitute. Because destitute, masakin, they will not be able to perform Hajj in their lifetime because of the, difficulty of travel and the expenses attached with it. So it's tough for them. Therefore, if they attend Jummah, then it is as if they have performed Hajj. Friday prayer is so important that we read in traditions that Imams prepared people to get ready for it from Thursday night. Moreover, they would advise people not to eat anything on Thursday, which might lead to their weakness the next day, and they're unable to attend Salatul Jummah. Or when they do attend Salatul Jummah, it will bother people who are present for Jummah. So from all of this, we understand the importance of Friday. The Salatul Jum'ah, as the ayat of Surah Jum'ah are very clear. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu idha nudiya lis-salati min yawmil jum'ah fas'au ila dhikrillahi wa dharul bay' dhalikum khairun lakum in kuntum ta'lamun. If you only knew, this would be the best thing for you. وَإِذَا رَأَوْا تِجَارَةً أَوْ لَهْوًا انفضوا إِلَيْهَا. And the condemnation for those who used to strand Prophet is standing by himself when the call of the prayer was being said. No, temporarily shut down your business, temporarily leave your work, come to Friday prayer, and then go back to it. I wanted to conclude with the adab and the etiquettes of entering and leaving one's house. Now, we're going through this pandemic and it's difficult. When we go outside, we dress up in a different way. We have masks, we have the gloves, and when we're always vulnerable. And when we come back home, family members who did not step out of the house, when we went outside the house, there's a possibility that we might bring some infection inside. So therefore, we wash ourselves and we remove the gloves and we keep the mask on. We for example, take a shower, clean ourselves before we can interact with them. Now, there are other ways of protecting yourself as well. While all of this is important that you should perform, this is the guidelines that have been provided by the CDC. They should follow these guidelines. But along with these guidelines, do the following as well as far as the dua is concerned. So these are some of the adab of entering and leaving one's house. Islam has directed us with etiquettes of entering and exiting the houses. Imam Ali said, whenever you enter the house, enter by saying Assalamu alaikum to the family members. And even if no one is home, you say Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi as-salihin, which you say in your tashahud and salam. So when you enter the house, Assalamu alaikum out loud if there are people inside the house. If they're not inside the house, then even then you should say the salam, sending it to on yourself. And then recite Surah Ikhlas, which helps remove many illnesses as well as poverty. We read in another tradition that about the ethics of exiting the house, that one should say Bismillahi wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi tawakkaltu ala Allah. I'll repeat, there are three segments of it. Bismillahi, that's one. Wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi, that's the second. Tawakkaltu ala Allah, that's the third segment. We all know these three segments, just putting them together. Bismillah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, tawakkaltu ala Allah. In the name of Allah. When you say that Bismillah in the name of Allah, There isn't any power or might except with his help. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. And I put my trust in Allah. Tawakkaltu ala Allah. These are the three lines that you're saying. It says, since you said Bismillah, an angel says, you're provided guidance. When you say La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, the angel says, you're protected from all the evils. And when you say Tawakkaltu ala Allah, he says, Allah is sufficient for you. In this state, Shaitan then says, what can I do with someone who has been guided, has been protected, and sufficed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? There's nothing that I can do to penetrate such an individual. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a tawfiq, an ability to understand the importance of Jum'ah, Salatul Jum'ah, to the extent, I mentioned it, I think, in the previous weeks as well, that when you can't pray Jum'ah, delay your Friday, delay your Dhuhr just a little bit so that Jum'ah, if it's taking place somewhere, is over. And then when you pray Zuhr, you're allowed to pray it out loud, like Fajr or Maghrib or Isha. And it is recommended to recite after Surah Fatiha, Surah Jum'ah, and recite it bil jahr, out loud, out of respect for Salatul Jum'ah. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability so that when this pandemic is over, inshallah, we can all be gathered here in Masjid and we can perform this Salatul Jum'ah. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.